Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 23 in the book of Galatians. I'm going to title today 15 and a half things that you will want to do. And also 15 and a half things that Christians will want to do. And this is also 15 and a half things that you are not to do, that is not complete, not fulfill. So let's just go to the list here, and I'm going to categorize these things. There's so many things that are listed here that we actually have to categorize them. So this is in a section called Walk by the Spirit. We're in Galatians chapter 5. And I'm going to start with verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are evident. And here's the number one: sexual immorality. Number two, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissension, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and here's the one half, and things like these. So this is a list of, pretty nasty things. Let me just categorize them into a couple of categories because there's so many of them, 15 and a half. So let's reduce it so we can get our arms around it. One is to mis-zipper. That is sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, and maybe orgies. So it's stuff we do with our zipper that's wrong. Worship is the next one. Idolatry, sorcery. That is, we want to get in touch with the spiritual realm and sort of bypass the cross. So we misworship. And then we misrelationship. So enmity, strife, rivalries, dissension, divisions. We kind of devour one another. Then the fourth category is to mis-contentment, and that is to have envy and jealousy. And finally, misconduct. So I put anger, drunkenness, orgy should probably be in there too. That is sort of misusing the gifts that God has given us to enjoy and to use in the right place. So these are 15 and a half things not to do. These are the works of the flesh. These are the desires of the flesh. Now, here's my big question today. Come on, God, when we turn the leaf over and we become a believer, we have a moment in time where we become a Christian. Why don't you poof these things away? Why don't these things disappear? In fact, Paul says in the verse, 2 verses before this, verse 17, it says, "For the desires of the flesh are against the spirit." No kidding. "And the desires of the spirit are against the flesh." No kidding. "For these are opposed to each other." No kidding. "To keep you from doing the things you want to do." So here's what I'm here to tell you is that for those of you who are before the moment of faith, I'm sure that you want to do these 15 and a half bad things. And for those of you who are after faith, you want to do these 15 and a half things too. That's the crazy thing about this. Why did the Lord allow us to still want to gratify these desires? And here I think is the answer. So he wants us to be in this war, but he wants us to walk with the Spirit. So even though we are still tempted, so every day the church is full of people who every day of the week are tempted, and they're in desperate need for the right weapons. So this podcast is being generated in an era where there's a Russian-Ukraine war, and Ukraine is calling out to the world, help us with weapons. We need the right weapons to destroy this particular attack. And then we'll shoot them in the right direction at the Russians. So I think that the Lord allows us to have these 15 and a half things, mis-zippering, misworship, misrelationship. Why? Because he wants us to have the Spirit. He wants us to be indwelt. He wants us to know godliness, the characteristics of God within us. He wants to be with us during this bad time. He wants us to know that we need weapons, like the Ukrainians. He wants us to know that we need weapons and that he has supplied us. So he wants to morph he wants us to morph our wants, which for these 15 and a half things, he wants us to morph them away from them as we let the Spirit lead us. We let the Spirit fill us. So I think that's what it means to walk this war. We talked about my kingdom for a horse. That is, we are in a battle. This is every man's battle, and it is every woman's battle. And the battle is this versus the Spirit, versus the desires of the flesh, these 15 and a half things. So imagine the frustration of a time before the unboxing of the Holy Spirit. All these things were still wrong. They're still at odds with God's way, but there was no empowerment. There was no weapon to battle at them and to have an effective weapon and to shoot it in the right direction. The only thing that the Old Testament law said was, hey, just try harder. And now we have a very hard command, which is don't complete these things. Don't gratify the desires of the flesh. They're still raging a bit in our heads, in our heart. And I want you to fight them with the weapon of the Spirit, walk with the Spirit, be led by the Spirit, and then displace them with the filling of my presence. So I think God is letting us have these bad misconduct desires so that we will call out for the right weapon, which is his Spirit, to fill us and be indwelt, and then to use it, to be led by it, to have the directionality of to be led by the Spirit and walk with the Spirit in the direction that he's going. So that's why I think that Christians today still want to do these 15 and a half bad things. But he calls us and weaponizes us with the Spirit to help us fight them. And I think that results in intimacy. Thanks for listening.